Oh, hi. I guess that means I'm live now. Wow, this is so fun. I can not see anyone, but I can imagine folks' energy tuning in. I was, oh, hi. Yeah, feel free to say hi if you know me or don't know me. It's nice to have a sense of the energetic space we're all coming together. All right, well, thank you all for being here. Something really wonderful that Lauren said. I was reading some of the comments, and Lauren said, you are both here in this digital space and in the physical space you're in. And that's obviously pertaining to Twitch here, but also we're in so many digital worlds now. Number one, because it's 2020, but also Zoom and things like in Twitch and are very vibrant. So we're both on screen in groups and also in our own space. I'm in a closed room by myself right now. So a little blurb about me before I start. I am a teacher trainee of a practice called the Alexander Technique. I guess I'll give a little blurb about what that means, but also if you stick around for the chat after, I'm happy to answer any other questions or curiosities you have. So it's very hard to talk about because it is a hands-on technique. It's very experiential. So it is a somatic practice. It regards the self as psychophysical, mind and body connected. And the work we do, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details, but the work we do is about being present, which Lauren also mentioned, meeting yourself where you are in the present and how you're relating to the space around you, and sort of noticing inward while also still knowing what's around you. Noticing habits you have that sort of get in the way of having freedom and ease and beautiful space within yourself. So I'm a third-year trainee. It's a 3-year program, so it's my final year. I'm also a level 2 Reiki practitioner, so I'm very interested in energy, energy that exists within us that we can use to suit us in our environment and in where we potentially want to go. And I'm also interested in Reiki, we pull in energy into ourselves and use that. We also pass energy from ourselves into someone that we're working with. So yeah, I'm interested in energy that's just naturally within us that we can use to benefit ourselves, and energy around us that we can use, and energy from another person that we encounter and connect energetically. So anyhow, I can't see you, so you truly can do whatever you want to do. That's a good life practice, right? You should do what you want to do. It's nice and okay to say no. So, being this 2 days before Election Day, we're going to talk about breath a bit. We're going to be with ourselves and experience our breathing a bit. Early voting is very alive this year. I've voted already. So I want to sort of consider what it might feel like if you have already voted or if you're still waiting to vote, knowing that this election day is still upon us, and perhaps that it might not be a speedy results. Could take a while, which is why we can continuously practice being in the present. So I just want to invite you to take some time to meet yourself where you are, to sense where you are. My point of view is coming through a practice we do in the Alexander technique, which is a guided lie down. You're oriented in semi-supine on some sort of surface, be it the bare floor or a yoga mat or a rug or a massage table if you have one, which I do behind me, but I will not be lying down. And we're in semi-supine, which is to say your back is making contact with the ground, as is your head, as are your feet, which means your knees are oriented towards the ceiling. If that makes sense to you or it sounds interesting to you, you may find yourself in that orientation. I mentioned, I posted like an hour and a half ago in the Facebook post, if you got that to bring 2 to 3 paperback books with you if you have access to that. And so if you do lie down in semi-supine, you'll want to put those books behind your head. It just gives your head some support, so there can be some lengthening. And again, I'm not going to get crazy into that because that's very like specific to the technique, and that's not specifically what we're doing. That's just what I'm coming from. But I will be bringing in some breath stuff specific to what we do in the technique. And again, go at your own pace. I'm going to talk at my own pace, but please, the goal of this is to meet yourself where you are, to see if you can't come into the present, and to see what you notice and what helps maybe calm your nervous system, what calms your anxiety, what calms feelings of mania, or perhaps what energizes feeling perhaps sluggish or low energy. So another option is you can just sit in a chair. You could stand if you want. You could stand with your back against a wall. This is me touching a wall next to me. And you can change your orientation throughout, of course. My interest is that you are curious. And there's a lot of unknown in this world we're in right now. But sometimes delving into the unknown can be quite pleasant and joyful. What you find could be joyful. So whether you're standing, sitting in a chair, lying down, or some other orientation I can't think of, notice your contact points. I'm going to talk mine through because I can't see any of you, so I don't know what you're doing. So I'm sitting in a chair. My contact points are my butt in the seat, right? And my thighs are in contact with the chair, and my feet are in contact with the ground. If I want to continue that, my hands are in contact with my thighs at the moment. So whatever orientation you're in, start to really know what you're making contact with. And we'll come back to that, but let's talk about our breathing. So luckily we do breathe. We just do. We are breathing organisms, but we often get in the way of our breathing or completely stop our breathing, or we just aren't understanding any of our relationship to how we breathe. So what we're going to do here is to slow ourselves down, which is not to say to become, complacent. Slowing yourself down to understand where you are is very enlivening, is very charging. So start to think about your breath. Are you in fact breathing? And I'm going to offer some suggestions, but just start to notice your breath. Is it shallow? Is it very deep? Are you breathing in through your mouth or your nose? Do you have a very strong awareness of your breath? Or maybe it's hard to really know it all. So what I want to offer and invite is that no matter what you're sensing, there's no judgment there. You're just meeting yourself where you are, and then seeing if you can't be more present with where you are, and perhaps make some intentions and wishes, hopes and desires for where you might want to go from there. In the Alexander technique, what we're trying to do is really enliven our conscious thinking, bringing things from the subconscious into our conscious. So a beautiful gift of the technique, which is to say of human beings, because these are just all human functionings that we're tuning into, is that we have choices. We hope to have the ability to have choices in what we consciously do. So I'm going to offer something. The most advantageous, I don't know if that's even a good word, but the most advantageous way of engaging with your breath is to allow yourself to inhale through your nose and exhale out through your mouth. Simple as that. It's not a controlled breath. I don't know if we have performers out there, instrumentalists, singers, actors, dancers, all manners of people who have a very loaded history of how you breathe. It's a very big event. You have to take in a lot of air and, exhale out a very long sound. But what's most important is to know your breathing. To not interfere with your breathing. There's no timer on this. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. As I talk, I'm going to offer more and more things, but please be with yourself with whatever pacing you need, whether quicker or slower, or right with me, right with my pacing. And additionally, be curious. So if you're curious to try something, go there. You can always come back to the present. You can always come back to where we are as a group. And we're just breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. We're all together, but of course we're all in our own spaces. So really do take up space for yourself wherever you are. Be expansive as you want to be. So there's this journey within your torso that happens when you breathe. So as we take air in through our nose, our rib cage, this beautiful structure that starts just behind our collarbones, and it's different on everyone, but really goes relatively low in your back. And your rib cage connects to connects to your spine. So as you breathe and there's movement in your rib cage, there is opportunity for expansion, release in the spine. And your spine, the top vertebra of your spine, is kind of like behind your eyes and in between your ears, that high up. All the way down to your tail, which is pretty low in the pelvis. So anyway, as you inhale, And we're inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. As you inhale, your rib cage opens. It sort of expands out. And as you exhale, it drapes long. So this is sort of an entire torso activity. And again, if you're a performer, or you might just know a little bit about anatomy, your diaphragm's involved in breathing. So there's an oppositional relationship that happens in working together with the diaphragm and the ribs. So as you inhale through the nose and your rib cage expands open, your diaphragm moves down. And as you exhale, your rib cage drapes long, your diaphragm moves up. So as you engage with your inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, sense if you can feel any of that going on in you, any of that movement journey I just described. I'm going to be pausing from time to time so you can sort of drink in anything I'm saying to not overwhelm you. This is not a time where we need to be overwhelmed. But quite simply, focusing on your breath, how you're breathing. Am I breathing through my nose? Am I lifting my chest and my shoulders? Am I focusing all my breathing on filling up my belly? As you breathe and you notice, you're engaging in being present with yourself. Slowing down to become a bit more enlivened within yourself because you're understanding what's happening within yourself. And before we move on, come back to if you're in semi-supine, lying down, or if you're just lying down, however you want to lie down, of course, or if you're sitting in a chair, or if you're standing, coming back to your contact points with the surface. Do you notice more contact than before? Or not? We're just noticing, we're just checking in. We have no expectations, no judgments, but we can have wishes and desires. So for instance, as I'm sitting here, perhaps I want more of my glutes to release onto the chair. Or perhaps I want my sits bones, those two bony structures at the bottom of your seat. I call them your butt feet. And maybe I want to feel them more. And maybe I want to try to engage with my breathing in an effort to sort of find that. In the Alexander technique, as I mentioned, it's psychophysical, which means mind and body. So mind and body influence one another. Thoughts can lead to physical happenings. So I can sit here, again, this is my example, maybe you can think of one for yourself. As I sit here and I want to feel my sits bones more, I'm going to say, perhaps if I engage a little bit more with meeting my breath where it is, and then, committing to this easy inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, perhaps I can notice things happening in the moment. Or perhaps I can come back to my thinking a little bit later and notice. So that was me just coming back to meeting ourselves where we are physically in the space. And as we're breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, make sure you're seeing. Your two eyes see, and the whole of you breathes. And you can hear things too. You might all be in a room you're quite familiar with, especially during a time where we're slowly coming out of quarantine. But how can you sense things newly? By slowing yourself down, connecting to your breath, and seeing something new in the room, or seeing something different. Seeing not something new, but seeing the same plant that you always see, and maybe it's different. So do feel free to look around as you breathe. We don't need to be fixed while we're breathing. That's not helpful at all. We want to be open and, we want to be open and available for movement. So if you're seeing something new, your eyes are seeing something and your head is moving with that. And as I mentioned, your top vertebra of your spine up here, that's sort of engaged in my seeing. So in essence, the whole of my spine can also move with my sight all the way to my seat where my tail is. So I'm going to talk us through something that is specific to the Alexander technique, but it's about breath. So we all can relate to breathing, even if you know nothing about the technique. So in the technique, we have something called a whispered ah, A-H. And it's a controlled exhalation. So again, maybe you've done controlled exhalations on like F or S sounds. This is very much that, but it's an ah, A-H. So I'm going to talk you through what doing that might look like. And you can follow me, or you can just keep staying with your breath, uncontrolled, as you like. Or if you need to hear me say it a few times because you're moving slower, that's great too. But so through doing a controlled exhalation like a whispered ah, you might gain more sense of unimpeded movement through your rib cage, perhaps through your throat, perhaps through your neck. And it's sort of something that we do to enliven us, to open us up. Something I think about a lot, specific to my training, is enlivening thoughts. I mentioned earlier, as psychophysical beings, thoughts affect change. So enlivening thoughts could really lift us, could really bring us joy, could free us up, whatever that means to you. So whispered ah still engages with an inhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. But we just add some specific thoughts onto that. You don't need to do this yet. I'm just going to sort of give you the thoughts around it, and you can play with it on your own. So as breathing beings, we're always breathing. So we're always in a constant breath cycle. Again, I'm talking a lot. We're sitting, staring at a computer a lot. Feel free to get up and move around, or pick up a new space in the room, or stay where you are. I just want to make sure that you know that you have always have the freedom to do so, the freedom to move. So we're always in a breath cycle. You can sort of think of your breathing as a water wheel. It's always happening. We breathe when we're sleeping. Isn't that bonkers? We're unconscious, yet breathing. So our bodies and minds know how to breathe. As human beings, we just sometimes interfere with that for many good reasons, you know, for safety in the moment, for a whole slew of reasons. But the more we can sense when we're interfering with the breathing and perhaps pause and choose to get out of the way of the breathing, the freer and more present and more embodied we can feel. And I personally feel the more embodied we feel, the safer we feel. If I'm embodied, I feel more confident in myself, that I know what my capacities are, and so I feel safer. You know, breathing is a birthright. We breathe. So now we're going to breathe in a whispered ah, and I'll finally tell you what that actually means. So again, like I mentioned, we're always on a breath cycle. So when you start a whispered ah, and again, I'm just feeding you the instructions, no need to follow along with me. You can sort of jump into the wheel of what I'm saying whenever you're ready. Like jump rope, you know, jump rope in the schoolyard. Oh gosh. So when you decide to begin engaging with the whispered ah, because you're already breathing, you exhale wherever you are in the breath cycle. And whenever you then begin the preparation to inhale, close your lips, not in a scrunched way, just let them meet. Allow your tongue to be heavy, have its full weight behind your bottom row of teeth. And the tongue's a very big muscle. It does a lot of work, so there's lots of opportunity to think about our tongues and let it release and have its weight perhaps untangle through our throats, from our throats. And again, thoughts can lead to physical change. You can't actually make your tongue, order your tongue to unwind from your throat, but what does that thought do to you? If it does nothing, that's great, let's move on. So, I've exhaled wherever I am in the breath cycle. My tongue is resting contentedly behind my bottom row of teeth, closing my lips. And as you inhale through the nose, this is where we bring in an enlivening thought, which can mean a lot of things. So as you inhale, you think, you put your thoughts to something you find funny, or someone you love, or like, or that you lust after, or a place you love, a thing you love, an activity you love, a smell that really gets you engaged, a taste that gets you engaged. I could go on. An enlivening thought. So in this enlivening thought sort of puts a smile in your eyes. And it actually gives a lift throughout your soft palate. If you don't know what that means, I'm not going to assume. If you take your tongue and trace under your top row of teeth, it's like a ridgy area, and that's your hard palate. As you move your tongue back, it gets softer, and that's your soft palate. So, I've exhaled. I'm thinking of an enlivening thought. There's a raise in my soft palate. And on my exhale, I whisper A-H, ah. So I'll demonstrate it in case that doesn't seem like something that makes any sense. So, and so it's a cycle. So at the end, I close my lips, which is to say my tongue resting behind my bottom row of teeth. And then I inhale an enlivening thought. And I exhale on a whispered ah. So over the next few minutes, I want you to just experience that, to explore that. If for whatever reason an ah doesn't feel good, you can do an F or an S or whatever sound comes out of you that feels good. If you want to put voice on it, whatever you want to do. But really be curious about following that cycle. And perhaps you get into more of a groove with it the more you go through it. And again, this is still engaging with your inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. We're just adding a few things on top of it. And as you're doing that, I'm going to offer that we check in again with our contact points. Keep breathing and keep seeing. And I'm checking in with my feet and my butt in the chair. If you're lying down, you can check in with your head on the ground, your back on the ground, and whatever part of the rest of you is on the ground. If you're in semi-supine, your feet, or if you're completely laid out, then the whole backs of your arms and your legs. Maybe you're starfishing. And just notice if you sense yourself in contact any differently. Sense as you breathe in and your rib cage expands, your diaphragm moves down. As you exhale, your rib cage drapes long, your diaphragm moves up. If having the thought of that journey within you changes how you're in contact with surfaces around you, if it changes how you're seeing what's around you, if you want to physically feel, you could put your hands here at your chest, inviting your chest and your shoulders to not lift. Mine just did. Allowing your whole sternum, your shoulders to stay soft. You're going to put your hands here, the widest part of your shoulders, which is the widest part of your physical anatomy. As you breathe in and out, as you do this, sense if you can stay or sense or create more softness in your throat or in your neck without getting super Alexander technique on you. What if as you breathe, the crown of your head could move up in space, showing you where the wall meets the ceiling above you, in front of you? If that sounds so weird, who cares? Just have fun with it, or just throw it away, or let your imagination take you somewhere else with that. But for me, as I'm here at the widest part of my anatomy, engaging in the whispered ah, I'm thinking of the crown of my head meeting the wall and the ceiling in front of me. And I still have my sit bones, my butt feet in the chair, and I have my 2 feet on the ground. But really be curious with your hands. You know, your hands can really sense what's going on in you. You could give your heart a massage as you breathe in and out. You could give your tummy a massage and allow it space to take up, to be free, to not be holding in, not holding our abdomen in. And I'm talking, but keep engaging with your breath. Even if you want to stop this extended exhalation and go back to unsteady breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. But yeah, what if your abdomen could be soft and your torso could be wide and deep, your belly button all the way back through your back, And that way, your organs, all your organs in your stomach have more space to move around and do their function. Breathing and allowing yourself to take up space can allow your heart to soften. Breathing can allow energy to spread around you. As oxygen is coming in and out of your heart, as oxygen is riding around with blood through your veins throughout the whole of you, that's energy, right? That's energetic. So perhaps placing hands on yourself, being curious, placing hands around your ribs as you breathe. Sensing the breath in your low back. Depending on how your limbs are oriented, if you want to give yourself a hug, sensing your shoulder blades, or if it's comfortable going even further, if you started this activity, and thank you for being generous with yourselves and finding yourselves here and meeting yourselves where you are. So as you're here, engaging with your breath and engaging with your physical space and your sight and your breath and what's happening in your physical self, where's your mind? Did you come in rushing from something? Did you come in knowing that we have an election coming up and you're anxious or stressed or sad or angry? And has this time pausing, meeting yourself where you are, coming into the present, changed your thinking? Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Allowing your contact points to be supported by what they're in contact with, the surface they're in contact with. Has that changed your thinking? It perhaps might feel empowering that this slowing, this coming into the present, has allowed you to change your thinking, to have more autonomy over the tempo, the rhythm, speed, whatever words work for you, of your thoughts. And being present isn't about like only listening to my words and only being exactly where you are. That's actually kind of constricting. We want to expand out. Still with ourselves, I still have my seat and I still have my feet on the ground, sensing my contact points. But as I breathe, as I see, as I allow myself to be supported, I can be expansive from that. Which means I might look out the window and notice someone walking and I'm wondering, where are they going? Or I might hear someone in other rooms of my apartment and wonder, I wonder what's going on out there. Or you might be wondering about your morning tomorrow, and that's okay. That's not being in the present. As you breathe, if I'm thinking about my morning, I can breathe that in and I can exhale that out, knowing that the morning's there waiting for me, that I'm here right now. Practicing presence is just that, it's a practice. We can always practice it. And know that because we're human beings who have experienced things and will continue to experience things, sometimes we go to things that happened before, things that are coming. But we have options, right? We have choices to say, oh yeah, that thing, but I'll let that go for now. I'll see that tomorrow, or I don't need to think about that. That happened last week. I already figured that out. I'm here right now, seeing and breathing. If it feels nice, you might want to put some sort of wave or wiggle into yourself. Some wiggle into your toes or your fingers. You can bring your hands together and allow them to sort of press into one another as you breathe and see. Sort of matching the force of my hands right now. And I can be expansive from this force through my breathing and through my seeing and through my knowing that I'm in contact with surfaces. And I can open into that. You could do this against a wall if you want, or a surface. You can do it through your feet if you want. Or you can do none of that if you don't want. I'm going to read a really quick poem by Audre Lorde that I saw on the subway the other day, and I just loved it. And I thought it was kind of very online with this. So you're still breathing, you're still seeing, and I'm just going to read a poem by Audre Lorde called Smelling the Wind. Maybe this could be an enlivening thought. We talked about enlivening thought with a whispered ah. Maybe this poem could be your enlivening thought. So perhaps choose to engage in maybe 3 or 2 or 4 or whatever more whispered ahs as I read you this poem, and perhaps these words can wash over you and enliven your inhale, can lift through your soft palate. Smelling the wind. Rushing headlong into new silence, your face dips on my horizon, the name of a cherished dream, riding my anchor, one sweet season to cast off on another voyage. No reckoning allowed, save the marvelous arithmetics of distance. That's Audre Lorde. So we have distance and space in ourselves, and there is distance to places that we might want to go. And we're breathing. We're breathing oxygen and blood and energy through our hands. We can breathe into our backs. We can breathe into our pelvis. We can inhale breath into our hips. Exhale out through our torso, out through our throat. We can breathe into our feet, into our knees. We can breathe out through our thighs and our calves and our shins. We can breathe in through our ankles. We can breathe out through our wrists. We can breathe more space into our senses. And we can exhale out anything that's not serving us. Thank you all for being here and for being with yourselves and for sharing time and space for everyone else. If you've already voted, brilliant. If you're still to vote, I wish you the best of luck and thank you for voting. And just before we stop, just notice if me talking about voting has brought in any stress or stimulus or anxiety. And maybe it's less than it was before this. And maybe it's the same, but we can keep intending to allow ourselves to ease up. So I suppose if you want to stick around and be in the chat, we'll do that. And yeah, I'm done with this cycle though, and you can continue cycling by yourselves. Always arriving, never arrived. Thank you all so much. Thank you. I think, Lauren, that's your comment in there. Thank you. I'm very grateful as well.